I always encourage authors to think about publicity when they're writing the book, or even before, maybe they're at the outline stage, but start to think about, what are those media hooks and angles that I'm going to use? Because it's going to get here soon. Like, you think, oh, promotion is way down that train track, but it comes fast.
Welcome to the Life in Paradise podcast, the show about creating a life you never need a vacation from. You'll gain inspiration from those who have done it before as we share experiences, strategies, and offer practical steps you can take to live your dream life in paradise. With your host, attorney turned alchemist, Dawn Fleming.
This afternoon, I am with my dear friend, Marika Flatt. She is a rock star book publicist that I was introduced to by Morgan James, my publisher, and we've done some work together, and I'm thrilled that she's here. A little bit about her. She's a 2021 Outstanding Austin Communicator and has been a leader in book publicity since 1997. She and her husband, Doug, founded PR by the Book in 2002, and Marika's a connector by nature, I can relate, and brings a wealth of information and expertise to the table from her friends and connections in publishing. Marika has been a regular speaker in the book industry since the late 90s for organizations such as Digital Book World, Independent Book Publishing Associations, Publishing University, Book Expo America, and Writers League of Texas. And she's also a travel writer. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up. But anyway, thank you for being here, Marika. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Always fun to talk to you.
Yeah. So I gotta ask, how did you become a book publicist?
So it's kind of funny. I wrote an article about the answer to that question early in my career because I would get that question all the time. And it was funny because back in that, this is like late 90s, my extended family did not even understand what I did.
Right.
They would always say, so you're a book publisher. And I'm like, no, not a publisher. And so, yeah, I was on a career path in college to go into TV. I wanted to be in front of the camera. I had done multiple internships when I was a senior in high school. I even did a show on a little cable network called The Teen Report. And I just kind of got bit by the TV bug. And so I was planning to go into TV. And throughout college, I did several internships related to that. And by the time I was leaving college, I knew that the reality was that if I was going to pursue that career, I was going to go live in a small market. I was going to work Thanksgiving and Christmas and every other holiday. And I thought, I just don't know that that's for me. And so in one of the last internships I did at a TV station, we got to work alongside PR professionals. And I started kind of digging into what that was. And a month after I graduated from college, I was offered a job as a book publicist for a really small firm. And it was just, I knew that was what I needed to do because I was a voracious reader growing up. It still am. And I knew that was blending, books and the literary side with getting people on media, which I also understood and valued. And so it was just kind of like a match made in heaven. And I was so blessed to, land in that small company because it was kind of like a sink or swim kind of thing. It was so small that, there was no dead weight. It was like, oh, you just started, get on the phone. We used to call it smiling and dialing, get on the phone and start pitching. And that's what I did. And, that was 97. And, I was working underneath the owner. And at one point it was just me and her, wow. A couple of people had fallen by the wayside. It was just me and her. And I was learning everything from her. And it was just so valuable because it was baptism by fire, and so I loved it. It was just a great fit for me. And I stayed there quite a while until she had sold that company. And I had a great exit point because I, at that point in time, had been running all the publisher campaigns. So there was a whole team that was working one-on-one with authors, and I was running the publisher campaigns. And I had a couple of like really slam dunk, like best-selling situations. And I just knew that's when I needed to leave. And so we started up, like you said in the bio, PR by the Book started in 2002. So we celebrate 20 years. Our official 20th birthday was last month. And, I love it. We've been so lucky to have such a strong team throughout these 20 years, people that just live and breathe this, this passion for getting authors in front of media outlets. And, there's never a dull day. I would not have done well in a job where it was like the same thing, like Groundhog Day, every day.
Right.
And so it's great because, you're constantly working with different authors. Every author has their own story to tell. You're constantly looking for those media opportunities, that are a good fit for that particular author. And so that's a very long-winded answer.
No, I love it because a couple things. I mean, number one, what a great opportunity for mentorship. I know I've been in a similar situation in my career, and it's so invaluable when you basically are, side by side with the owner running the show. Like, you learn so much. Mm-hmm. And obviously that was a huge, huge benefit for you to be able to be that in that capacity.
And she is still to this day a very dear person to me. And she's moved to another state. I haven't seen her in I think I saw her about 5 years ago was the last time. But she will always have a very special place in my heart because she mentored me, and she was like, we're going to create you into a great publicist. And I was just like wide-eyed 22-year-old at the time, right. Just graduated. And I told her, I said, I am a sponge. You can, you could put me in any situation and you can teach me whatever you want, and I'm going to soak up that knowledge. And it just worked. I mean, we were a great partnership, and she was not someone who wanted to be out in front, speaking at conferences and things like that. And I did. I mean,
right.
I kind of grew up public speaking.
Yeah.
And so I was like, put me there. I'll go. I love to travel. Send me to Book Expo America, send me wherever you want. And so we were just the perfect pair because I liked doing the things that she didn't like to do. And she was teaching me everything that she knew, and she's no longer in book publicity, but I will always have a very, very special place in my heart for her.
The other thing, as you're talking about that occurred to me is it almost seems like the universe was leading you, like you followed your passion, right? Which is what they say, like, oh, okay, I want to do TV. And then all of a sudden, like, you start to see the reality of it and you go, oh, okay, well, maybe not. This isn't, it. I mean, that was me practicing law. Like, it sounded sexy, travel the world and stuff, but sitting in front of the computer, 10, 12 hours a day, pumping out legal documents wasn't that much fun, And that's why I go, my future dying at my desk. No, thank you, And so you start to think about the reality of what that work is going to be. And for you to say, but I like this over here, and be able to have those pieces of things that you really enjoy and to be able to utilize it in a career, especially at that young of an age.
Yeah.
That's just so unique. And especially now, I mean, I know plenty of 25-year-olds that are just lost and like, I don't even have a clue what I want to do. So to have that sort of divine guidance almost in your career is really fortunate for you.
So my daughter turns 22 today, and hearing you say that is like, wow, because like she'll graduate college in May, and she kind of knows what she wants to do, but she's kind of like the rest of us, as a senior in college, like I could go this path or I could go that path, or, And so that also made me think about a longtime friend of mine who I actually worked on her campaign. She was one of my clients at the previous firm in one of those big best-selling campaigns that I did. She and I are still very dear friends. I just got to see her when I was in Salt Lake City a few weeks ago, and she's launched a podcast. It's called That One Conversation. And it brought me back to those experiences in that first year of like that one conversation that led me on this path or that path. And I think, being open to, what's the universe telling me, and just trying to absorb those conversations that can be 25 years later, a momentous conversation that sent you down this one road. I was just telling my 15-year-old last night, one of my favorite quotes is Robert Frost about, two paths diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Yeah. And we were having a conversation about that, and I'm trying to teach him now at that age in high school, like really think about the choices that you're making and what you want to do. He doesn't think he wants to go to college, and that's going to be okay. Because there's a lot of things that he can do, but sure. My husband and I are really like trying to coach him through, being open to what's the universe telling you should be doing.
Right. Well, there are so many options these days for kids. So I don't envy those choices, having to really choose amongst all of the possibilities that are out there.
Right.
So I didn't hear in your story where Doug came into the picture.
It just all kind of happened very organically because, his forte is on the business side. And so when we decided that I was going to leave that other company, and really at the time, it was kind of like my vision was like, it's time for me to leave. I'm going to be a freelancer of sorts. And I knew that I could, I was already having kids at that point. And I knew that I could sustain my career in that way. And he said, we're going to set this up as a business, and we're going to do all these things, and you're going to have a website, and we're going to do all these, put these pieces in place. It's going to be an LLC. And so he just kind of built it as a business. So, we complement each other very well because his strengths are my weaknesses and vice versa. And so, he built it up. And I mean, everybody who is, running a publicity firm or anything like that needs somebody running the business.
For sure.
Because you can't do everything, nor do you want to. And so, we just started building it from there. And, it immediately was a business because when I left, I had several publishers come with me. And so it immediately was more work that I could handle on my own. And so we immediately hired 2 part-time publicists, right when I left, and that just grew from there. And I have so many stories about that too, but I won't bend your ear about all that.
I'm just curious if he stayed in advertising for a while, or did he kind of leave right away to help you run it, or how?
Let's see. He had left advertising and was working for his family's business remotely. So the funny thing is that we've been remote workers before anybody even considered that, really. So, I don't spend a whole lot of time really thinking about that too deeply, but he was a remote worker for his family's business by the year 2000.
Wow.
And nobody was doing that, you know, but they're not based in Austin. And so he was working as a consultant for them on a daily basis. And so it just all worked out that when, it was 2002, and we launched PR by the Book, he was able to pull back on that commitment. He had done a lot of work, like setting up a lot of systems, and so it was a good time for him to pull back on that commitment and just
real easy transition for him.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful story, and congratulations on 20 years. Wow, what a huge milestone.
Thank you.
Very exciting. And I know you were supposed to come here and celebrate, but they are.
I know. I'm going to get there.
We've got you in the books.
I'm on my 6-month countdown now.
That's right. And I know you like the beach, because I was stalking you on Facebook. I was like, oh, she likes the beach. Look at those lovely pictures.
I'm such a beach girl. My husband is a mountain guy and I'm a beach girl. And so we have to kind of, we've already been talking about how when our youngest graduates 3 years from now, we can work from anywhere.
Right.
And, taking the claiming our dream life mentality. And, we have those conversations regularly now, like, where would we want to be, and 100% of the time, I have said, I need to be by the water. So
right.
I don't necessarily have to be on a beach, because I don't know that I want to deal with the hurricanes, but I need to be near water. So, and he wants to be near the mountains. So we're just.
Well, there are places, actually, there's places in Mexico that one of the gals I interviewed quite a while back now, they were living near Puerto Vallarta. And so they were actually up in the mountains, and then but it was very close to the beach too, like drive down the mountains, and there they were. So it's certainly doable. So find that out.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the reasons that people write books. I mean, in my case, I had threatened to write a book for probably more than a decade. And I don't know if that's common in the writing world, that people sort of have this idea about writing a book. And I'd even attempted it a couple of times. I had a outline that I did years and years ago, and it was about setting sail on a sea of change. And because I'd been through so many transitions in my life, and I don't know, things, life got in the way. And then I took a course when I got here to Mexico, and it was, make a mind map. And so I got out a sketch pad, and I'm like drawing all this stuff around, and it was so complicated. It scared the crap out of me. I shut it, and I never touched it for like years, literally. I was like, this isn't a book. This is like a set of encyclopedias. So going through that.
You are an attorney in your previous life. So.
Right. Yeah, I know. And as my husband says, I have a very busy mind. So but it was sort of funny. As I've gotten older and had several different types of businesses and been a business attorney, what I've really come to learn about myself is I love systems. Like, give me a system and I am off to the races. If I have to sit in front of, if I would have had to sit in front of a blank page and write a book with nothing, forget about it. Same. And actually I'm pretty artistic when I paint, but I paint murals. I paint pictures of things I see. If I had a blank canvas to paint, I think I would not do very well with that. I had to come up with it on my own. But having a system, and that's kind of really what I followed as I wrote my book. But what are your thoughts about that? I mean, in that whole book writing process?
Mm-hmm. So a book is oftentimes like a baby for people, and the gestation period is a lot longer than 9 months. So, like you said, 10 years. I mean, that is not uncommon for me to hear those stories when I'm talking to authors of, I worked on this for 20 years, or this was, percolating for 15 years in my mind. And so that is not uncommon. Why do people write books? A variety of reasons. So anything from they want to credential themselves, to they want to build their business. So they want, their outreach to be bigger. They want to utilize it to get in front of media, like we do with publicity, so that they can build their brand. And that might be building their social media platforms, building their newsletter list, whatever. They might they might start out self-publishing a book so that they can use that as a foundation to try to get an agent or a publisher down the road. So there's a really wide variety of reasons. Oh, and to build their speaking career. That's another popular one. So there's a lot of different reasons that people write a book, and some it's 10 years, some I'm amazed. Sometimes I hear authors say that, they wrote a book in a month during the pandemic.
Right.
So you just never know. But yeah, I mean, oftentimes it's a bucket list item for someone.
I was just going to ask about that, the legacy piece of it.
Yeah. So they might have set it on their bucket list, and it's just one of those things that they will like kill themselves to get done because they are going to check that box, and I'm sure that Morgan James works with a lot of authors that are in that category that just, they knew they had a story to tell and they were going to do whatever it took. And it's not easy to publish a book, and it's not easy to promote a book. People started asking me once I had gotten into this job. I was only, like a baby book publicist, like a year into it, saying, "Oh, when are you going to write a book?" And I was always saying, "No, not my jam. I like to write, but I like to write things like articles and press releases."
Right.
And not a 300-page book. But yeah, it's not an easy thing. And oftentimes people think that it's easier than it is. And so they get into it, and then they get down the road and they're at whatever step. Maybe they've completely written it, and they've even gotten their publishing plan and a pub date. And then they start to realize all that they still have to do to promote it, to market it. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't sign up for this." So, I always encourage authors to, and we talk about this in our Author to Influencer Accelerator program, but we encourage authors to think about publicity when they're writing the book, or even before, maybe they're at the outline stage, and, start to think about it and think about those pieces. I mean, your book was so fun to promote because there's just so many different legs that you can stand on for publicity. But start to think about, what are those media hooks and angles that I'm going to use? Because it's going to get here soon. Like, you think, oh, promotion is way down that train track, but it comes fast.
Amen, sister. It sure does.
and it's a long game, right? I mean, you've been at it for a while now, and you will continue to promote the book, and it will continue to sell because you're doing that. So, I just encourage authors, like, think about those media hooks and angles that you're going to use and what your strategy is going to be when you're just at that outline stage. And then you can develop them. They can get richer and richer as you go through the process, writing the book, working with whoever your publisher is going to be.
We'll be back in a moment.
Isla Mujeres is a Caribbean jewel off the coast of Cancun. Castilito del Caribe warmly invites you to enjoy our spectacular oceanfront villa located in the heart of El Centro and a short walk to Playa Norte, which is ranked one of the top 10 beaches in the world. With an ocean view of crystal clear turquoise waters overlooking both the Caribbean and Cancun city skyline, we offer a fabulous location for you to enjoy all the peace and tranquility you're looking for on vacation, while also taking in all the excitement the island has to offer, with activities either in walking distance or a golf cart day excursion away. Please visit CastilitoCaribe.com, www.CastilitoCaribe.com. We look forward to seeing you soon.
I'm so happy to have you with me for the Life in Paradise podcast. I love our listeners and fans, and we'd love to show our appreciation for you supporting the show. So please head over to lifeinparadisepodcast.com, where you can find free resources mentioned in this show and also register for our gifts, prizes, and swag. I'd also love to hear from you, so there's a place on that page to submit your questions, comments, and requests so I can serve you better. And if I answer your question on the show, we'll send you a free gift.
I guess we should probably tell people, because a lot of people do not understand this. There are 3 categories of publishing now. So there is traditional, hybrid, and self-publishing. And they're all very different, and they all have benefits, and they all have disadvantages. But, I talk to authors all the time, and they've never heard these terms. They don't know what any of it means. And they don't know what they're in for. So an example would be like if somebody comes to me and they say, oh yeah, I'm going to self-publish. I start asking questions. Oh, okay. So do you have an editor already? Who are you going to use for a book cover? Do you understand layout, design? I'm assuming that sales and distribution are going to be all on you. So, do you know how to get an ISBN? I mean, it's just
yeah.
I could start asking all these questions. And by the time they're like, wait a minute.
Deer the headlights, right?
I didn't realize this. And so, it's just good for people to educate themselves on, depending on what path you're going to take for publishing. And of course, the one that takes the longest is the traditional, because you're starting way, way, way ahead of time to land an agent, which is then going to sell it to the publisher. And then once it's sold to the publisher, it still might be a good 18 months before it's coming out. And so there's just a lot of things that people don't know going into, I'm going to write a book. Bucket list
like one example for me was, who knew there were seasons for books? Right? That was one of the conversations we had early on. Like, what season should this book be released? And I'm like, what? There's a season for books?
Oh, yeah. We could talk about that for several more hours. But I mean, in traditional publishing, fall and spring are the big seasonal times for book publishing. So spring is March, April, and fall is September, October. And that doesn't mean that 100% of their books are coming out in those 4 months. But those are the big seasons where they're releasing a lot of books, and the timing is all mapped out. The typical pub day of the week is a Tuesday, and it has to do with sales. And, there's just like all these little things. And I love talking to people about, if I come into the game early enough in the process, I love talking about like, what is your perfect pub month? Because as publicists, we're thinking about timely tie-ins all the time. And that's kind of a secret weapon with publicity is, what are the timely tie-ins? And, Dawn, for your book, it's year round, it's seasonal. I mean, it's an evergreen book. And so it's super fun to come up with a whole 12 months of timely tie-ins, for Claim Your Dream Life, or a book that has an evergreen approach like that. But sometimes there's like that perfect month that a book should come out. And an author might not realize it, and they might not be thinking about that. They might just be thinking, well, I'm going to finish it, and as soon as it gets through the process, then that's the perfect time.
Right.
It's like, well, not necessarily, and don't get me started on books that come out between mid-November and New Year's Day. That's a whole nother conversation.
Not a good time. Take it.
Not a good time for a pub date, unless you're putting all those eggs in that gift book basket.
Right. Right.
But I'm talking from a publicist perspective and not the publisher perspective. So publishers have other reasons, of why they might want to bring out a book on December 6th.
Well, and again, it go back to what your purpose is. I mean, if it's just a calling card and you just want to have it as an extra asset in your business, you don't really care about selling a book, that might not matter, right? If it's a legacy book, I just, I want to leave a legacy and publish my memoirs or my life lessons or what have you. Maybe it doesn't matter that much. But it was funny. It goes back to the original workshop that my girlfriend told me about. She said, "Oh, I got this great write a book in a weekend workshop that I did." I said, "Oh man, I've been wanting to write a book in decades. If I could write one in a weekend, like that'd be cool, right?" And so, but what I didn't realize when I signed up for the workshop until after I got the homework was it wasn't just write a book in a weekend. It was write a book that sells. Oh. And so, but as it turned out, it was a good thing because my idea, I was like, okay, well, I've had this podcast for a while. I'm just going to make an anthology of all these wonderful stories that people have shared with me, and I'll organize them according to lessons or, things to look out for, whatever, inspiration. And then when I got the homework, it was like, no, you have to teach something. Like we have a very specific formula. It's tried and true. And we know if you're in the self-help space, right, that these are the things you need to hit and all that. And so I started looking at the homework and I said, well, wait a second, this is my workshop. And the good news was the book kind of wrote itself because I had all of the elements in place that they had recommended be in a book that sells. But my thought process was, well, yeah, I guess if I'm going to publish a book, I kind of like it to sell,
Yeah. That'd be nice.
I go to all this work because I knew there was a lot of work in it to do it right. That's probably why I hadn't done it for 10 years, right? Part of me, intuitively knew that like, this is kind of a big deal, girlfriend, right? And so to be able to do that. And then as we discussed in the previous episode with Michael Neely about starting a podcast, how big of a deal is it for you to already have sort of your sphere of influence, a following, in order to help with getting the word out?
It definitely helps. The more credibility that you bring to the table when you're ready to promote your book, the easier the climb up the mountain, because it's always going to be a climb. And it's just an easier one if you have that credibility built already, because if you think about it, books are coming out every day of the year. And so the competition is fierce. And there's a lot of people trying to get that same airtime, that same sidebar in a magazine or book review space. I mean, there's a lot of competition. So if you're coming and trying to promote a book on family relationships, for instance, the media outlet's going to say, what's her credentials? Is she a psychologist, a psychiatrist? What is her credibility? And sometimes it's just, well, she has a personal story to tell. Yeah. And, she's experienced this, like the school of hard knocks, basically. Right. And, and that's the case for some of our pitches that we're pitching to media outlets, and we land the media. But the more you can come with that platform, the following, because when they see your social media following, they're thinking, okay, if Dawn is on my show, I know she's going to be sharing it on all of her social media platforms. So then that's putting our show in front of her audience. So it's kind of a win-win.
Sure.
And it makes it a lot easier if you've got, you've got that street cred built up, already. When you're pitching to get on media.
Yeah. And I was actually on our author mastermind with Morgan James yesterday. There was a gal on there who just had an idea like the last week for a book. She's already published a book, but she had another idea for a book, had to do with helping her mom who has like the stuff, right? Getting rid of the stuff and all that. So she had some ideas about that. And David was pretty funny. He said, well, you've already followed the first rule of book publishing, which is start promoting the book when it's just an idea. I should get a kick out of that, right? You just promoted it to all of us, and so we'll be headed to this mastermind event. We can help her flesh out some of the nuances of it.
And which, you know, what's funny is that since she said that to you, you're going to come across, it's that reticular activation.
Yeah.
So you're going to come across all these scenarios and you're going to think about her, so-and-so, let's say Bonnie.
Yeah.
Oh, Bonnie's book about, you know, hoarding or whatever. I need to tell her that she should go and do that, or she needs to do this. And so you just never know, putting it in front of someone's brain.
Yeah.
And then they start thinking about, oh, well, that happens with me all the time because I'm reviewing books all the time. And then I'll be somewhere and I'll be having a conversation with a friend or someone else. And I tell them, oh, you know what book you need to read?
Right.
They're always like, Marika's always pushing books on us. And I'm like, you need to get a copy of Claim Your Dream Life so that you can find your place in paradise and buy it and go move there.
No, I think that I hadn't thought about it from that angle, but you're absolutely right. Because just by speaking it, and you know, there's power in speaking, right? So just by her speaking it to all of us, I hadn't thought about that sort of web effect, right? Of that energy going out to all of us and being a great resource. So a good reason not to not keep it quiet,
right?
And to kind of let people know. As long as they don't poo it, you know, you don't want, oh yeah, you're never going to be an author. You know, you don't want the naysayers. So I guess there's always a risk of that, but
I think people are more scared about getting their ideas poached.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good point.
Yeah. I think that, you know, just because it's so easy for people to publish if they're going the self-publishing route these days, that I think people are like holding those things close to their chest because they don't want somebody to take that and run with it. You know, it's interesting to me because I don't write a proposal for any book that I haven't read chapters of. And I tell people, if somebody's giving you a proposal and they haven't read any of your book, run the other way.
Yeah.
But I have people that are, you know, I can tell like they're like, oh, you know, maybe they're early on in the process and they're like, oh, I'm sending an electronic copy. And I always tell people, first and foremost, it does not leave our little company. We are utilizing it for the purpose of coming up with a publicity plan for you and making sure that we're a good fit first and foremost. So, you know, I need to know the content. I need to know the writing style. And I tell people sometimes, it's okay if you just want to send 3 to 5 chapters.
Sure.
I might request more, but it's fine to send 3 to 5. But anyway, I still have every once in a while, I have somebody who I can tell they're scared to let their initial chapters go out into the world because they're like, what's going to happen with it? Like,
well, and I can't help but wonder too, if maybe it's not even about the book, like, oh my gosh, am I, it's like sort of hitting the send button on the email, like, right. Once it's out there, like it's out there, like you're not going to recall it and go, well, maybe, right. So maybe there's just a little bit of fear on that side of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, I know you're super busy. I don't want to keep you for too long, but I'm just wondering, I always like to end my interviews with this question. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with somebody who might be thinking about a book in their future?
Yes, because, you know, you and I, Dawn, talked before the interview that, you know, people need a roadmap and they need a like a concierge of sorts in this situation. So that's why a couple of years ago, we launched the Author to Influencer Accelerator, which you've been a part of. And this is basically, I oftentimes will refer to it as my nonprofit because it was kind of like my giving back to this industry after 20 plus years. And so it's basically a membership program. We make it super low cost for authors to be in it. And it's meant to be massive high value for what they're paying for. But it basically takes someone on a 5-step path. It starts with preparation, and then it goes into platform development, product, planning and promotion. So again, like it's just meant to be a super high value resource for authors. And I just encourage anybody that's thinking about a book or has a book and doesn't know what to do with it, or, maybe you have had a book out for a while and you're just, in your heart that there's still more that you can do. There's workshops in there for everybody. There's almost 70 workshops in there on all different topics. And then also the members are in our private Facebook group where we're in there all the time sharing tips and suggestions. And there's a monthly office hours with me. And so, that's just like my little gift to.
It is, Marika, it is so well done. That at the end of the day, that's why I decided to hire you too, is because I could just see, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need this woman in my world, right? Because you just really poured into that so much experience and the guests that you brought on to explain different things. I just got so much out of it. And you do go into in depth about that, what you were talking about, the difference between publishing, self-publishing versus having hybrid and kind of the pros and cons of each. And so I think that is an important educational piece getting into it. I was fortunate. I had kind of already gotten that, under my belt by the time I got in there. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you as part of the series, because I thought, oh gosh, it would have been really cool to have gotten that in the very beginning. To be even better at planning and understanding the process as it unfolded, especially as a first-time author and not really knowing anything about the industry of publishing. Even though I'm a voracious reader too. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know the other side of it. Well, I will make sure that we put the links in the show notes for that, and then. Did you want to talk about the other item, free gift that you have?
So, yes. So my favorite thing to talk about in terms of publicity are timely tie-ins. And so as publicists, we're constantly looking down the road of what's coming out that we can tie in to promote ourselves with. And so we're creating a 3-month calendar of timely tie-ins. And you don't have to be an author to utilize these. These are kind of the silver bullet, especially not only to pitch media, but also to utilize on your social media platforms. And so we're going to do the research for you. And we're going to develop January through March for 2023. And keep in mind, they do rotate dates. The date of, National Authors Day is not the exact same date the next year. So you have to kind of keep up with that, but we're preparing that as a special gift. And it's golden. And it's something that you can use both as a springboard to keep yourself going throughout the year, because you see it and you get it, and then you know how to look for those opportunities yourself. And then also, if you just have that one quarter, you can utilize that when it comes back around the next year as well.
Right.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
I love it. Well, and you give so much. You really do. It's so clear that you just are so passionate about the work that you do and working with folks to get their message out. So I'm really grateful that I was introduced to you.
And me as well. Yeah.
Appreciate your friendship and also some of the connections that you've made to help me with on my journey. So with that, I will let you go. And again, I just thank you so much for being here.
It was a pleasure. We could talk all day.
We could.
Yeah, we will in 6 months.
Excellent. I so look forward to meeting you in person.
Yes, me too.
Thanks for tuning in to the Life in Paradise podcast. Did you love this episode? If so, we'd love for you to follow, rate, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We invite you to tune in every week for more inspired insights and wisdom to create your Somebody Pinch Me reality. And until next time, dream big and act on it daily.